Good morning, guys. My name's Dr. Rob Kelly, the addiction doctor, along with Jennifer Lovely. This is the Recovery Channel podcast. And good morning to everybody, or afternoon.
Good morning.
We're going live on Facebook and YouTube, guys, and we'll also be uploaded to loads of platforms tonight. But how's your day, or how's your morning going, Jen?
So far, so good. I went to bed a little late last night. So I'm not a late night kind of girl. I'm an early to bed kind of girl. So last night I got stuck on a TikTok reel where I couldn't stop watching TikTok.
I hate that flipping thing. I'm on it every day. I do my own things. It's like, I'm sure a 59-year-old man doing a TikTok dance looks absolutely horrendous. But hey, you only live once, don't you?
Right. That's what they say. YOLO.
So I've got to tell you all, guys, and I don't want you to judge me because the old Manchester boy comes in here. The poor Manchester boy living on the projects comes in. But we bought a car for our dogs. I want to let you sink that in for a second, guys. I know that and people are watching now, but yeah. But the only reason why is because every time they get into my wife's car, they mess it up. So we decided to buy a car. But when we're buying it, okay, I got a flashback to what the hell are you doing? Are you crazy? Kind of flashback because I'm buying this car. But oh man, the things you do for your animals is unbelievable. I don't know, it's crazy.
I think it's hilarious.
I know. So when our girl comes round, our assistant cleaner, her dog, whatever she is, we can send her out now to do the shopping run. We call it in. She nips down, picks it all up, comes back, stacks it all away for us nice and clean. It's freaking awesome.
Yeah,
can't believe it. It's awesome, but we're getting crazy busy.
The things that we do for our dogs. I had a woman show up a couple times actually, to my house to clean my dog. And she put them in a jacuzzi and then massaged them. She came at 9. She left at 10 p.m. That's how long she did.
Damn.
And I was kind of feeling like this is a little over the top. I don't do that for myself, but I'm doing that for my Springer Spaniels.
How many have you got? I thought you had one. Have you got 2? Or you had 2?
I used to have 2, yeah.
It is. Well, this van pulled up. It's like an old school bus, a shorter one, all nicely, all his name on and everything. But I didn't go in, but Janet went in. He said, there's a bath there, there's chairs, there's a little place to take photographs. I mean, he did the expression, the nails, the bath in about 20 minutes. He's got one in the bath, he's cleaning the other. He's like all over the place. I know.
So I don't think I ever told you. Do you know that I shared custody of my dogs for almost 4 years with my ex-husband?
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
I can see that. Yes. You get so attached.
1 week on, 1 week off, until finally I was just one day I was like, fuck this. I got divorced for a reason. I don't actually, have to do this. So I gave him one and I kept one. It was really sad, but it helped my mental health.
Yeah. That's what I like about you and the way you teach when we work together is you don't take any shit off the husbands. It's like, hey, girl, why are you doing this? This is what you need to do. And I think you can't go to school for that. You have to go through that to be able to teach that. Yeah. So I know what you're thinking, guys. Who's on the show today? Well, let me tell you about Monty Man. Monty Man, you've probably heard of him. If you're in recovery, you've definitely heard of him. He runs the world's oldest recovery radio station. Such an amazing guy. He lives in Albany, Oregon, and he lives with his wife Marcia, and they have an absolutely amazing life. And I've been on his radio show before. They were absolutely fantastic when I went on. Such a great guy in the 12-step movement. Such a great guy working with teens. A real advocate for recovery. So hey, I'm looking forward to it, Jen.
Let's do it.
Monty Man's on the show after this. Hey guys, welcome back. This is the Recovery Channel podcast. My name is Dr. Rob Kelly, the addiction doctor, along with my co-host Jennifer Lovely, and we have Monty Man on the show at last. Monty Man, how you doing? Everybody. Good to see you, man. How are you?
Yeah, it is. It's exciting to be here on your show. I'm pumped, brother.
It's awesome, and it's so nice meeting you, Monty Man.
Yeah, you too, Jen. You guys, I was listening to your last show. You guys guys work together well, really
I've
well.
heard that. So even from my wife, it's like, like that you get sort of tired and you're like, oh, I don't want to do this anymore. And my wife pops in, you'll find nobody like Jennifer. You and Jennifer work together. And I've heard that so many times off people. It's like, why aren't you on Sirius? Why haven't you got a radio show? And we go, it's coming. You and Jennifer, we just have that gel. And we've only met each other once. And that was only about 2 months ago, Monty, because we were,
really?
we never knew each other until about a year, Jen, or not even that much. What do you reckon?
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
It was about that much. But it's so funny because I've never chased a man the way I chased Rob platonically, right? Like
yeah. She kept popping up, Monty, popping up here, popping up there, and then we spoke, and then all of a sudden, like we're working together, and I often sit down and go, how did that happen? I'm not sure how that happened, but yeah. Jen's awesome at that. She's a very, very shrewd businesswoman. I love her to bits.
Well, you know what they say, when the co-host is ready, the host will appear.
Oh,
I like that. I like that. Hey, listen, let's go back to the beginning then, Monty, if you don't mind. Let's go back to where it all started for you. I know it ended in meth and alcohol, but what was the first drug you took? How old was you and where were you?
Yeah, I was in middle school. We called it junior high school in Petaluma, California, here on the West Coast. And I've been struggling, like got a lot of kids in junior high. You go through this trauma of junior high trauma. I mean, I was a heavy kid. It doesn't matter if you're too tall, too short, too heavy, too skinny. You go through all the stuff you go through. And I saw my dad, who had a very stressful job. He'd come home from work and he'd make himself a brandy and 7, and I mean it was about a cup about as big as my Monty Man mug here, and but he'd only fill it up about like that, and he'd sit down and take a few sips on that, and I saw him just kind of relax, and I thought, hey, I'll try that. So one day I decided to walk into the kitchen and fill my mug completely to the top with Christian Brothers brandy. It was made by a bunch of Christians. I figured it couldn't be all bad, right?
right.
Yeah. So I was drinking alcoholically without knowing it from the very beginning. I drank that whole thing down really quick because I knew I was doing something wrong, right? So I had to sneak it. And then you know what I did? I did it again. I poured another one. And I stood on the other side of the living room from my parents in my tidy whities talking about the philosophies of man for probably a half hour. And then I realized I got to get to the school dance. And of course, there I was 10 foot tall and bulletproof. And I had found my solution, guys. Yeah.
I love that story. That is a great story. So, Monty, one thing that you may or may not know about me is my qualifiers are my children. They are recovering meth and heroin addicts and everything addicts, really. And my son they were both super young when they started using, but they would literally, my husband and I were divorced, and at their dad's house, they would call a taxi because their dad would be drinking so much at night. They'd call a taxi. The taxi would pull up in the driveway. They'd sneak out the bedroom window. They'd get in the taxi and they'd take off. And they'd party until 3 o'clock in the morning. And then they'd go to school.
Wow.
And this was going on for years until finally I sent him to rehab. So I love like how our families create and support the addict and the alcoholic. So talk to me about what that was like as a teenager to be 10 feet tall, strong, and to have everything you want, like on, what do they call that? The liquid courage. Talk to me about where that took you.
Well, as far as my parents were concerned, they were in major denial right from the very start. I mean, there was, I remember getting in an automobile accident when I first got my license due to being under the influence of alcohol, and waking up in the hospital. My mother is leaning over the bed going, "Bob," that was my dad's name, "Bob, I think they gave him an alcohol rub down. Do you smell that?" I mean, she figured that it was like a hospital thing, right? Somehow. So they did. I mean, them watching Cops and saying, "Well, at least he's not that bad, Bob," and not realizing, no, they just never got me on camera, that kind of thing. But so in school, my perception changed of reality, right? So a person's perception is their reality, real or imagined. Mine was imagined, but it had changed to where, everybody liked me. Everybody was my friend. And I was somewhat of a graphic artist. So, the football and the jocks, it was back in the, jocks. And then you had the hippies. You had those two movements going on, battling each other. And I was friends with both sides because I could draw and I could stay inebriated.
Mm-hmm.
But, when push came to shove, where was everybody when it bit me? I think I had one or two really close friends. They didn't even go to my school. But yeah, I mean, it gave me that assurance that everything was okay. Like I said, it was my solution for years. It wasn't a problem.
No, definitely not my solution as well for years and years. So you said when he bit you, let's talk about that for a second. When was the time you knew that he was in trouble with his deal?
Yeah, it wasn't until I crossed over into, we called it crank back in those days. It was basically pharmaceutical speed. And I was sitting in the living room at my apartment with my best friend. He was my drinking buddy of 25 years. And man, we were thick as thieves. And this guy came over to the apartment and he brought out the equipment, let's say, for using intravenously. And I turned to my friend Larry and I said, I will never, ever do that. Won't ever do that. And he looked me straight in the eyes, and he says, I remember when you said you'd never smoke a cigarette. And the very next day, that's how I used.
Wow.
And I knew when I was over at that other guy's house, when it was all going on, even in the midst of it, I knew I was in deep weeds. And yet I had lost the power and choice to make a decision to walk away.
That's painful.
Yeah, very painful. I mean, I'm right in the middle of it. It's like when you lock your keys in the car and you're watching the door shut in slow motion, and you can't get to them fast enough. And it's a done deal. And from that moment on, alcohol became secondary, and the methamphetamine took over.
Yeah.
And
so
it was,
how long was that journey? How long did you stay on that journey?
18 years with a needle in my arm and a bottle in my mouth.
Wow.
Yeah. Ended up living on the streets of most, a lot of metropolitan cities, San Francisco, Houston, LA. And I romanticized it. I thought it was like, I'd hear that song "Free Fallin'" by Tom Petty.
Yeah.
And I went, oh yeah, that's me. The girlfriend's at home, she's a good girl. She loves Jesus and Elvis, and I'm out doing this thing. But I'm cool. I'm okay. I'm just free falling, man.
That's so interesting because when my kids were young, I was a young mom, and I would put them in backpacks and we'd go, listen to Crosby, Stills and Nash, and we would go, and they grew up listening to the old music, if you will.
Yeah.
And my son will tell you that one day he woke up and he thought he was just like, I'm in the wrong generation. I'm supposed to be back in the 60s. And he thought that he could be, jumping on trains, going and living that homeless life. They used to really fantasize about being homeless and how that would be so cool. Yeah. It was the most bizarre thing.
I felt that way.
Yeah.
It was by choice. I romanticized it.
Yeah.
I'd go to San Francisco. I'd walk the streets of San Francisco, literally walk them. Of course, you get skinny as a rail when you're using speed and you're walking the hills of San Francisco, and just aimlessly. And then I'd spend my nights in the adult bookstores because, no one's going to look for me there. That's where I'll hide out, right. And that was and then that would go on for a run. And then I'd go back home to Petaluma, and clean up for a while and do my thing. And then I'd take off to LA and stay there for a while. And
it's crazy. It's crazy stuff, you know.
It is.
Absolutely. And then we learn the real truth. Guys, Monty Man is on the show. Such a great guy. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsor. Hey guys, if you're listening on podcast, that was Life Over Addiction. Lance Wright is a transformational life coach. Let me help you navigate your life's path back to one of purpose and meaning, he says. The chains of shame and guilt no longer have to hold you back. Let's start a new conversation. LifeOverAddiction.com. You can email him info@lifeoveraddiction.com, or you can call him. Call Lance on 310-890-2337. Monty Man's on the show, guys. Okay, so Monty, tell me about your last day of drinking and using.
Oh man, woo!
It's gonna
be. Yeah, it's clear as a bell, man. It's clear as a bell. I mean, and hell and miracle met, right? So I was driving in my convertible. I had a CB radio in it, and I'm coming back from the streets of Portland, doing that thing, you know, where I'm going to go hang out in the streets and all that. Coming back from the streets of Portland, I woke up in Oregon out of a blackout, 2-week blackout, and then I never left Oregon. But I woke up, basically came to sort of and realized I'm driving this car.
Oh my God!
And and I'm heading back to Albany, and on the CB radio, I'm hearing truckers telling me, "You're in trouble, man. So what we're going to do is we're going to come alongside you and we're going to guide you into Albany, and you know, just keep driving as straight as you can. And there's all these white cars you see driving around you. They're taking care of you too. They're watching after you." You know, and I'm like, what? Where's this coming from? It was clear as this bell, just like you and me talking right now. got into Albany, got on the CB radio, and talked to a friend of mine who was a major pothead, but he was very anti-meth. Go figure. And he's like, "Oh boy, you're in trouble. Come over to my house." He called up my sponsor. He called up my wife. They were there. My sponsor said, against my sponsor's advice, I'm taking you to treatment, man. And I mean, it was horrible. I was sitting on this porch of my friend's house, and his kid was collecting spiders in this big jar, and I dropped it, and spiders went everywhere. And I have arachnophobia big time. I hate those things, and I'm freaking out. You know how we are when we're on that stuff, and yeah, and I've never forgotten it. Well, those truckers and those white cars, I don't think they were really there. I think that was either amphetamine psychosis or maybe divine intervention. I don't care. I'm glad it happened. But I've never forgotten that. And I went into this treatment center, and in 3 days, I left skid marks getting out of there. Because they wanted me to turn my will and my life over to this crystal and put it in this box and say these mantras. And I mean, I wasn't going there, you know. And I talked to my codependent wife into coming and getting me. And that's when I really started plugging myself into you know, the directions. I mean, Bill W. called them directions, not steps originally, into the directions that were in that big book, and started applying and implementing those. And that's when everything changed.
Wow. That's really amazing.
Yeah.
That really is. So talk to me about when you turned everything over to your higher power.
Yeah. So I was in 1971. I was part of a Christian music group called the Masters Music Makers, solely for the purpose of inflating my ego, because I had a real high soprano voice and they were looking for a high soprano. And I thought, oh, this is, you know, glory lights, right? and we traveled all over the place. And keep in mind, I was sneaking alcohol in the whole 9 yards, but I had a very, I had a spiritual experience during an altar call in church one day. And I remember saying, you know, I'm not going down there. I'm not going down to that altar. I'm not giving my life to Jesus Christ. I'm not doing that. I'm fine where I'm at. And then before I knew it, I was down there. It was like I was driven to go down. It was like by the power of God, I went. It wasn't on my own power. And I, at the time, didn't know the phrase, had turned my will and my life over to the care of this Christian God, and tried with all my power to stop doing the things I was doing. Didn't know anything about leaning on the power of my higher power, but still on my own intellect. And of course that didn't work. Right. And so when this whole thing happened, this spiritual awakening that happened as a result of working the 12 steps, and may I just say, you cannot have a spiritual awakening as a result of steps you don't work. Something happened. It went from almost a religious experience to a relational experience when I turned my will and my life over to, and it was the same God, but now it was his power that was keeping me sober. I was learning to become God dependent and not meeting dependent. God dependent, not sponsor dependent. God dependent, not even step dependent. Because I was so dependent emotionally on the steps, in other words, the directions, on the meetings, on my sponsor, instead of the one everybody was talking to me about. And when I made that shift from emotional dependency to emotional sobriety, that's when my relationship with God grew. That's when I was able to actually start working with other alcoholics. It changed everything about my program.
I love that. Absolutely. Okay, so give me your best time, and give me your worst time, then your best time so far in life.
My worst time and my best time. I think my worst time was when I came home from a run and my beautiful wife had left a videotape for me to watch, because she couldn't get angry in front of me. And she does not get angry. She's just not that woman, right? But she needed to. And she did it on a videotape, and I sat down and I watched that thing, and I saw how I was breaking her heart. And that just tore me up. I think that was one of the worst experiences. It was horrible. It was horrible. The best time in my life, gosh, I gotta say, it's every day, guys. It's every single day. I have the awesome privilege. I mean, you put a post up on Facebook today, I think it was, about your self-worth, right? I put 10 because my self-worth isn't based in myself. It's based in my relationship with God. That's where my self-worth is. And I got to say, it's every day today, every single day. And it's not based on my feelings. It's based on my serenity, which you can have regardless of how you feel. You know, happiness is based on your happenings, but true peace with your true self and all that stuff is based on you and your relationship with your creator. So my best days every day, guys.
Yeah, I love that. So you work with teens. Is that true?
Yeah, actually, Adult and Teen Challenge. I mean, we kept the name Teen Challenge because it's been around for 85 plus years. But the center that I work at is it's an all men's center, and it's 18 years and older.
Okay.
But we do have adolescent centers.
Oh, yeah. So I'm incredibly passionate, but it's always like the wound is where our work is, right? The wound is where our gift is, really. And so I'm passionate about working with young people because my kids were so young getting sober. They were, 16 rehabs and all and the whole jail and the whole gamut. So talk to me about what you notice about young people and using. Is it really lack of coping skills?
Is it what?
Lack of coping skills?
Lack of coping skills? Sometimes. As we know, the the substance is a symptom, right?
Mm-hmm.
We had this bad fruit on the tree, and in 30, 60, 90-day treatment programs, we're learning how to pick the bad fruit, but we don't know how to chop down the tree yet, and we don't know how to replant it or retill the soil, for that matter. And so we have so many people going in and out of the 30, 60, 90. And what I discovered, because we do have a lot of 18-year-olds or people that just turned 18,
Mm-hmm.
and I do meet a lot of siblings that are siblings of these guys that are younger that are in trouble.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I mean, we're not a reservoir of mental wellness. We just aren't. And so a lot of us, we're not raised with the coping skills that a lot of others of us may have been. And I look at young people today, and I don't ask, why are you acting like that? I ask, why wouldn't you act like that?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not even on them. It's like, even something as simple as making your bed or rinsing out the public shower, after you get out of it, things like that would be common sense. It's not common sense because it's not common.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know. So yeah, a lot of times it is lack of coping skills. However, I will say this: it's amazing how resilient addicts and alcoholics are, how
Yep.
talented, gifted, loving, compassionate.
Mm-hmm.
So if all those giftings are there and it's like our natural instincts are truly God-given, we can turn those back around. And once we do recover and we have the power and choice again, and we don't, then that is on us. But yeah, I think it is a lack of coping skills. But we got to be careful that we don't use that as a
Yeah.
blaming mechanism too.
Yeah.
That would be an easy choice, wouldn't it? So after the studying we've done over the last 20 years, and the intense work with the brain I've done over the last 10 years, especially with neuroplasticity and neural pathways, so especially self-sabotaging ones with alcoholics, where was your trauma as a child? There's always trauma.
Yeah, so I was adopted when I was 3 years old. And it's amazing what you can remember. I don't remember the details of it, but I have a vivid memory of being locked in a very dark room for what seemed to be long periods of time. When you're that young, 15 minutes can seem like hours, right? And I remember having my hands burnt with cigarettes from foster homes.
Mm-hmm.
And the different foster homes that I went to, my mom and dad told me the story about when they were being interviewed for adoption for me, and the social worker would come and visit to see how I was doing. She was amazed, and she said, "You're the right family." And they said, "How do you know?" He says, "Because he's playing on the floor. A kid that is not comfortable where he's at isn't going to be playing on the floor, because every time he played on the floor at all these other places, he got punished." And so I think there was probably a certain amount of trauma going on there. Also, very early in my junior high school days, one of the stressors that I thought alcohol would fix, after watching my dad de-stress, I was sexually abused by older boys on the way home from junior high on several occasions, and then beat to a bloody pulp, and made the excuses to my mom that I fell in the sticker bushes, and I know that my abusers and I were the only ones that knew about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that had an effect on me. And it wasn't until my fifth step with my sponsor where that stuff all came out that I was free from that.
Oh, yeah. That is freedom when you can share that story openly. That is freedom. Yeah. And, I'm really curious, where do you think you learned resiliency? Because that is not something that is taught, right? Like Dr. Rob, myself, I think that we come to learn it out of survival, but I'm curious where that resiliency came from deep inside.
I think it's a gift from my God. I really do. I don't think I mustered it up. I don't think I'm that smart. I was there's a gentleman that I work with right now that he is an emotional basket case all the time. He's one of these guys that talks about everybody's pushing my buttons. And my response to him very firmly but lovingly is, what are you doing with all your buttons sticking out?
Right.
Yeah. And so, you need to learn emotional sobriety, not emotional. Your life is dependent on what other people think about you and how they react to you. And those resentments are just a relapse waiting to happen. But I look at this guy, and he's also very dependent on getting your loving, compassionate, figuratively speaking, hugs by kind of buying into his tears, because he can turn it off like that. And this guy he's in trouble. And I look at him and think, that was me. No wonder people ran away from me. That was me, and something happened again. I got to tell you, I think it was in the process of learning how to apply and implement those 12 steps in my life through the power of a loving God, that God entered my life in such a way where it was his joy, it was his power. It gave me that resiliency. And I'm dependent on him now. I'm not dependent on my own intellect. I got to give the credit to God.
I love it. Absolutely. So, I want one more question on the past, Monty. Then we're going to get into the good stuff. We're going to talk about stuff today, which is awesome that you do, and the passion you have. How do you still have to deal with the abandonment issues from your childhood, or have you sorted that out?
Yeah, no, I've worked through those, but I'll tell you, we talk about when we tell people, oh, I don't feel that way. Well, what do you mean? What do you mean don't feel that way? I do feel that way. Are you crazy? Instead of teaching people how to deal with it, we just tell them, stop it. Suck it up, buttercup. You're a man now, and all that kind of thing. And one of the things that I learned, and a really, really dear friend of mine, Dr. Alan Berger, who wrote the book 12 Stupid Things That Mess Up Recovery. He's been on my board. He's done shows with me. That I really learned from him was, it isn't so much that you don't feel the pain and you don't feel this. Today, as far as abandonment goes, when I see things that kind of bring that to mind, it still stings a little bit, but it doesn't have any kind of control over me. It just doesn't. It's not what I'm defined by. I'm not defined by alcoholism. I'm not defined by my past behaviors or foibles or any of that, or the abandonment issues. I'm defined by my relationship with my higher power. And so, does it sting once in a while? Yeah, it stings, but it's short, Rob.
Great, I love it, man. I love it, absolutely.
I think that forever it's one of those things that until we really do care for our inner child, love our inner child the way that it was supposed to be loved, it's always going to sting. So talk to me about what you're doing today. What's the gift that you're giving the world today?
Well, thank you. And again, guys, thank you for this opportunity. I consider myself a very blessed man. So a little over 16 years ago, I was in a 12-step fellowship meeting. Or actually, it was more of a 12-step complain about your day, drink bad coffee meeting. And I was reading a quote out of that particular fellowship's own literature. Somebody asked me if I wanted to share. I said, sure. It was an open meeting. It was open topic. And I shared on a paragraph that talks about, that tired old lie, once an addict, always an addict, will no longer be tolerated by society or the addict himself. The lie is dead. We do recover. And I said, that's really good news. That leaves me with no excuse. Now, I'm a diabetic, right? But I'm not defined by my diabetes. But I had to take care of myself. So that's really good news for me. And this guy stood up, and I'll never forget it. And he said, you know what, Monty? You got to keep your opinion to yourself and leave us all alone. And if you really want to spout that stuff, and I remember it was the literature of the program. If you really want to spout that stuff, why don't you start yourself your own talk show and leave us all alone? And
that's what you did.
Yeah, don't do that to an addict. I mean, so I went home that day, and it was wild. I had a message on my answering machine from a gal named I can't remember her name now. anyway, she was a manager in Nashville of this lady, Mary Lynn B., who was a recovery recording artist, one of the only ones in existence at the time, who had somehow gotten a hold of an email I sent to a sponsee and hated what I said, but she thought it would make good copy. So she told this manager, you need to get a hold of him. He needs to start his own broadcast, and so she got a hold of me somehow. And I'm like, okay, this thing happened at the meeting. This has got to be confirmation. But I don't know how to do this. I have no idea. I mean, people weren't even burning their own CDs back then. And she put me in touch with a guy from Virginia Beach. He called me up. This is back when I had to code everything on the computer. He taught me how to do that. I had a microphone I bought at Goodwill for like $1.75, and we did a show on a Friday. And it was horrible. I mean, it was god awful. The sound quality, I mean, it was terrible. But we thought it was the Cat's Meow, right? And then I remember how we posted it. I mean, we didn't have social media, but somehow or another it got out there. And boy, did it come out of the woodwork. Oh, you're breaking the traditions, press radio films and internet, and on and on and on it went. But I'm just stubborn enough and such, enough of a troublemaker to, turn that around. And, I told these naysayers, I go, first of all, everything that I do isn't affiliated with a particular 12-step fellowship.
Yeah.
I have a life, right? We have a disclaimer at the beginning of our very first show. It says we have no affiliation with any particular 12-step fellowship. And by the way, it's our public relations policy that's based on attraction rather than promotion, not our personal stories. And man, that caused. Well, what happened was it caused such a ruckus. I thought, this is great stuff. This makes some great shows, right?
Yeah, definitely.
And then it went on from there. But then it turned into people writing in and calling in and more recovery recording artists. They had no way to get their music out. And so we started doing that. And then, and we're not the biggest, brightest, or best, but we were the pioneers of it. And then I've watched over the years just a ton of recovery podcasts develop. You guys, and it's like, wow, God, thank you so much for this platform.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I love the guys when they come out and they go, you're breaking traditions, you're not following the book. And I'm like, oh, okay, I'm sorry. Have you recovered? Are you a recovered alcoholic? Oh, no, I'm recovering. Well, so are you not following the book? Why are you spouting off at me? Mind your own business. Monty Man's on the show, guys. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsor. Welcome back, guys. That was Liver and Recovery Interventions. Recovery begins today. Recovery begins together. Give the gift of recovery, says Travis. Travis knows what he's talking about. Talking about a Xanax seizure to a car crash at 120 miles an hour. What a great guy. If a loved one is in trouble or suffering, if you need an intervention, call Travis, 801-573-4188. Or visit the website first to find out more about him, liveandrecoveryinterventions.com. And remember, guys, recovery begins today. Recovery begins together. 801-573-4188. Where does your passion come from, Monty Man?
Excuse me?
Where does your passion come from for this deal? Because you have it there. It's solid. That's one of the reasons that, well, I want you to know two things. It's one of the reasons why I came on the show, because I'd heard all about you, of course. And the second one is that you inspired this podcast.
Wow.
So what gives you the
That's
passion?
humble.
What gives you your passion?
My ego.
Love it. Best honest answer we have had yet. I love it.
listen, you guys, I'm all I think about all day long. How about you?
I think I'm the same.
I mean, you got to take a bad thing and turn it around for good and for the glory of God. Listen, I got a sin nature. In other words, I got character defects flying off me all the time. But those things can be turned into character qualities. And we spend a lot of time focusing on character defects in our 12-step fellowships and not enough time focusing on our character qualities. And a true self-assessment is recognizing where you're not and also recognizing where you're not. I'm not down here. I'm a child of the King, man. I'm not down here. I haven't arrived. But this right sizing, I always like that term because it puts me in a place where, I can take my ego, I'm egocentric, I'm selfish, I'm self-centered, I'm self-seeking, and my higher power through the process of applying and implementing the steps in my life can turn that around, and that can all be for his glory. And, listen, guys, everybody that's listening to my voice, I ask people all the time, why are you here? Why are you in recovery? Why are you at Adult and Teen Challenge? Why are you on the show? Well, I want my circumstances to change. I want the little woman to get off my back. I want the judge to leave me alone. I don't want to throw up anymore. I'm tired of bruised arms. Okay, you're talking about consequences. You want your consequences to change. I am telling you that the reason you're in recovery is to learn how to become of maximum service to God and the people he puts in your life. That's why you're here. The other stuff, that's the hook. And I think I'm very passionate about that because people that just want to focus on their consequences and that's where they stay, they go back out and they die. Yeah.
It's so interesting. I often talk to, I would say I complain to Rob about this. I don't really talk to him about this. I complain. Rob, they're not getting it. They're not getting it. What do I do? What's the next step? But here's my epiphany with it all. When people come to us, when people come to me and they've had this experience, for the most part, they're qualifiers, they're a family member of some kind, their husband. And I was just having this conversation yesterday and it's like, look, this was a gift from God. I know it's hard for you to see this right now, but this experience is a gift from God because do you want to be 60 years old and wake up one day and say, what in the hell have I done with my life? Or do you want to find meaning? And for me, my children's addiction became like, my friend used to tell me all the time, Jen, I've never known Jesus to chase anyone the way he chases you. And I used to think, why would Jesus want to chase me? But the deal is that when we go through this pain, it's because we have he's going to use us to share a bigger, deeper, better message. And the thing is that what it felt like is I was inside of a shell and I was trying to break out. It was my soul that really wanted to be expressed and say something and share something with the world. And when we go through these crises, it's our soul asking for something more. And so what was your soul asking for, Monty?
What was my soul asking for?
Yeah.
You mean when I was in the middle of my mess?
All of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So validation. Remember, I was so addicted. I didn't know at the time. I was so addicted to you being accepting of me. Here's the dangerous thing about that. Even when you met my expectations, I would raise the bar.
Yep.
I would raise the bar. It wasn't good enough, right? And it caused me to become extremely codependent. To the point where people were running away from me, I felt I needed to be needed. I needed to be recognized. I had to have the attaboys. I had, all that stuff. And what's amazing to me is God will give you all that stuff if you stop looking for it. You know what I mean? And start get into service of your fellow man and of your creator, and amazing things will happen. But I got to tell you that, like, because we were jokes about my ego, but you got to be a little egotistical to do what we do, right, Rob? I mean, you gotta, I see you standing there in your fancy swimsuit and playing the guitar, and I'm like, I love this guy, man. You were playing something the other day, and I was like, yeah, this guy can come over my house any day. Listen, our egos, it's like the instincts, right? They're truly God-given, sexual, social, mental, emotional security. They're truly God-given, but we thwarted them. Mm-hmm. Our ego was God-given, right? We're made in the image of God, and we've got attributes of God. So, but we've twisted it. Let's twist it back. Mm-hmm. Let's not get rid of it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And it takes balls for every one of us to do what we do on here. I mean, I look at you, Monty. You're the groundbreaker to shows out there. When I was on your show, there was no holds barred. I mean, it's just the way I think of it now is I'm going to be 60 this year, and this was only over the last 5 or 6 years since I met Janet. And I thought, something. Every time I walk into a room, I'm wondering if people like me still. Today, after all the work I've done on myself, I walk into a room and wonder if I fucking like them. That's the deal. You can call it ego. You can call it anything you want, because when you stood in the sunlight of the spirit, it's not all about you. It's about, walking in that room, saying what other people are thinking, because I'm famous for that, whether right or wrong, could be the amount of people that's come to us in a meeting and go, hey, do you remember me? And I go, no. Well, 12 years ago, you picked me up from my mum's couch and you took me home and you nursed me and got me well. And like, I'm 11 years sober today. And I don't remember that, but that's absolutely awesome, because I just tell it how it is. And when we work with people, me and Jen are very similar to other people that work for me, is that we have that no bullshit. Here you go. I call myself the best at what I do in the world. Fucking prove me wrong. You can't,
Amen, man. Amen.
Yeah. You're out there doing it, and just living life. Yeah,
what do you got? What are you doing to get there?
Exactly. Yeah. Absolutely. I often talk about quantum physics. It's like you could be 25 places at the same time on a basketball court. I ask people, where would you want to be? And most people go, well, I just want to be near the goal so I can bang it in and be the hero of the game. And I says, what are you going to do about it? And they go, I don't know. And my answer is always the same. Walk over and take that position. What you visualize in your mind, you can hold in your hand. Your dreams that you have every night is God's vision for your future. And what happens is we get up next day and we surround ourselves by people that don't believe in us. And all of a sudden, that dream is snatched away by these people around us who are all down and don't think you're good enough. I surround myself with people that lift me up today. I don't surround myself by them haters, them guys that want to be me. Do it. I mean, I came from homelessness. I came from a trailer park to what I'm doing now. Come on, guys. I mean, it's not humanly impossible. God will give it to you if you want it, but you can't. I used to go to a meeting Monday, and this guy at the back, 50 years sober. And every time some young girls would walk in, 18, 19, I'm 50 years sober. And I'm, one day I cornered him. I said, something, what are you doing with that 50 years? And he go, what do you mean? Well, first of all, you're miserable. Secondly, when's the last time you helped somebody? Yeah, but when's the last time you sponsored someone? Oh, no. When's the last time you said thank you and have a great day to somebody? Because you can stick your 50 years. I don't want it. I'd rather have this guy over here who's 3 months sober. He's in the book and he's carrying a freaking message. Look at him smiling. Look at And that's one of the reasons I don't give him sobriety date. You should be able to know that I've gone through the deal and I'm living my life on one day at a time, and I'm living my dream instead of dreaming a living. You should know by just looking at me. And that's what I like about you, Monty, is you have that go, get out there, do the deal, look at me, I've done it. And I didn't know you were homeless, and I didn't know that you was in foster care, because that almost made me cry, because your past is just makes you who you are today. I know that we're running out of time, guys, so I want to say a couple of things, Monty, that is very serious from my point of view. Is I'm going to say this without filling up and crying, because I couldn't wait to get you on the show. You have been such an inspiration to me over the years, many years before we even knew each other. I heard of you. I listened to the program, and you have inspired me, not only in doing what we do today, but in living my life the certain way I do. And the second thing I want to say is I want to thank you so much from the bottom of my heart, for inspiring millions of people and just doing what you do. It took balls to start. It still takes balls to do. There's probably a bunch of out there that we all have haters. Me and Jen have our haters, and I'm sure you have yours. So thank you for standing up to them. Thank you for what you do, and thank you for being a child of God, my man.
Well, likewise, brother. Thank you. I mean, it's an amazing gift. This thing we've been given, and we've been given the responsibility to be good stewards over it. You know, we're on the same team. That's the thing. And you know, I there's that song, "Sit Down, You're Rocking the Boat." I'm like, no, don't sit down. Rock that sucker, man. Let's tip that puppy over. We got to get to shore. And we're just sitting in a stupid boat, sucking our thumbs, drinking bad coffee. Come on. Yeah.
I love it.
So, yeah, I love it too, buddy. Thank you so much. Those are very kind words.
Yeah, Monty, I love that you say that we must be stewards of the work. That's my thing, is that my gift to give the world is that you, just because your loved one is suffering, you don't have to suffer, and you could still live an amazing life, even if that person chooses to stay in their addiction or whatever their misery is, right? It's like, that's my gift from God. So I really want to just say it's been such a pleasure and so much fun meeting you. I hope we get to meet again. And I'm really curious what you want to leave with our audience. What do you want them to know? What do you want them to have and can hold for themselves as we step away? Yeah.
So it comes back to learning to be God dependent, not self-dependent, not ego dependent, not even step dependent. And I see so many people in and out of recovery so dependent on other people's reaction towards them, and it takes them out. And I'm not talking about, I mean, there's worse things than using and drinking.
Yeah.
There is. And I don't care what you believe in, don't believe in. That's irrelevant. It's not my job to make converts. That's God's job. But man, I wish for every human being to have a relationship with their creator in such a way that they become dependent on him and not on self, because there's no normies. Are you kidding me? Mm-hmm. Everybody's got something, where the tail's wagging the dog. And I don't know. That's the greatest gift I've ever been given, is this free gift of love and grace and mercy from a power greater than myself. I just wish that for everybody.
Beautiful. Yeah. Awesome. Listen, me and Jen want to come on your show. We've never been on joint with a show, and we'd love to do it. So I'm going to have my girl reach out to you and get me and Jen on your show, and it's going to be freaking awesome.
Yeah.
So thank you once again, man.
Thank you guys.
Take12radio.com. It's at the bottom of the screen. Jump and find out more about Monty. Such a great guy. Listen to the show. It's got some amazing guests. And listen to the show, or listen for the show with me and Jennifer. And that's going to be freaking mind-blowing, guys. It's going to be absolutely awesome. Thank you so much for watching. We're going to say bye to Monty, but we'll be right back after this to close the show. Welcome back to the back end of the show, guys. Just want to say thank you so much for listening and watching live on Facebook and YouTube, going up to platforms tonight. Monty was on the show. What a great guy. Absolutely great guy.
Amazing.
That's another guy we could go on for another 2 hours with.
I know. Forever.
Yeah, phenomenal guy. Absolutely. Watch out for this show with Monty. He's going to have myself and Jennifer on. That'll be awesome. We'll give you loads of lead ups to that. Make sure you can watch that. We're going to say thank you. Big shout out to our producer / outreach girl, Courtney Davis. Man, she's out there getting these guests, some fantastic guests, just like Monty Man and others to come. So thank you, Courtney Davis, for everything you do. And our other producer is Juliet. We love Juliet. Yeah, she's absolutely amazing. She's out there working for us. That just, you know, she does us a favor, doesn't she? She doesn't work for the right. If we could pay her the money we need to pay her, it'd probably be about $5,000 a week, I say, because she's just freaking awesome.
It's really awesome.
Guys,
and hey, we have some mugs coming soon, and I can't wait. I cannot wait to get my mug, and know that we'd be happy to give it away in the U.S. So, what do you say, Rob? What's the question that they need to answer to get a recovery mug?
Well, first of all, we've got about 60 coming in, guys. So there's plenty to go out. We've got 55 mugs to be given away. And just tell me what your worst time and your best time is in life regarding your journey. And also, if you want free books by me and Jen, The Addiction Diaries by Jennifer Lovely, she can have that signed and over to you if in the US. And of course, mine, Daddy, Please Stop Drinking. I'll sign it personally and send it over to you. So if you want them, guys, just send us a text or message or hit us up on Facebook. We'll be glad to send that out free of charge to you. We'll even pay for the posting. Shut up. Really? That's what we do here. That's why we're here. Guys, thank you so much for watching in. It's been a fantastic show as usual. The figures are up viewer-wise. I want to thank you for joining Monty Man and us. So for me, guys, I'm going to say see you Monday. Have a fantastic weekend.
Monday. Have
Bye,
an
guys.
weekend.